Hi, I'm Kristie Clayton, founder and visionary of HERverse. HER is an acronym for Helping Executives Rise. Welcome to ConvHERsation with Kristie, where we dive into real, raw, and inspiring conversations with incredible leaders. You see, at HERverse, we're not just a community, we're a movement, a space where women leaders rise together, support one another, and celebrate our collective success. Whether you're leading as a second in command, steering the vision as the visionary or founder, or driving impact with your company as a leadership team member, HERverse was designed for you. Our mission is to provide resources, coaching, and peer support that you need to grow confidently in your leadership journey. Through memberships like Female Executive Mastermind and the Lead Her community, along with events like workshops and summits, and even personalized coaching, we are here to help women embrace their strengths, overcome challenges, and truly thrive. And that's what ConvHERsation with Kristie is about too. It's a space to share the golden nuggets of wisdom that come from authentic, heartfelt, real conversations. There's no scripts, there's no fluff, just honest insights from leaders who are leading boldly and making an impact. See, I believe leadership isn't something you do alone. It's a journey we navigate, and we don't have to do that alone. We can do it together, because together we rise. Now, let's get started with today's conversation. I am confident you are going to love it.
Awesome. It is I'm so glad to be here. I'm confident everybody's going to love it as well, because today we are going to get to turn the mic and talk to our wonderful Kristie Clayton. Everybody, I'm Robert Heath Sr. I am honored to be here, to be able to interview my friend, someone who I tremendously adore. And I want to say, before we start, I want to say thank you for what you do. As somebody who, right, I've got my grandmother, my mother, my sisters, I've got my wife, my daughter. I have throughout, like, this is a cause that's near and dear to my heart, raising women, helping women to be stronger. I love the fact that what you do and what you've created creates a space where my daughter, who just graduated from high school, can live in a world where she gets to see tremendously different opportunities, tremendously different examples, and have tremendously different conversations about what it means to be a woman leader. And so I want to start off by just saying thank you, Kristie, for what you do. And for everybody out there that's listening, I'm super excited about you getting to learn all the stuff that I get to talk about all the time and get to learn about my friend. So I want to go ahead and get us started with a question about HERverse specifically, because you all are getting ready to celebrate an anniversary coming up here. So I want you to talk a little bit about this anniversary and this community that you've built. And the question that I want you to answer is, what's something that you've witnessed as you've built this community that has really moved you deeply over the time? It's the 8 years that you all have, almost 8 years that you all have been around.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. Creating this space has been extremely rewarding for me. And it's not even something I knew I was passionate about when I first started it. And it has truly turned into my life calling. So it's just a beautiful place to be in right now. So HERverse, it's so amazing to think about, the impact that it has had. We've heard so many women talk about it, and, the impact that it has made on them. And so, starting off with just 5 women that was in a WhatsApp chat, literally just, texting each other and, hey, I have this question. And, hey, this has happened in my organization. Has anybody gone through this before? What have you done? All of those things have been incredibly, just tremendously profound for all of us. And I think some of the things that really kind of stand out to me is, I'll never forget the very first time that a woman, and it was literally in the WhatsApp chat, she was like, we have been dealing with this as an organization forever, like for at least 10 years. And, every time we think we have it solved, it resurfaces, and it's frustrating, and I'm exhausted. Like, I've had it with this, I'm like, I was ready to throw in the towel and just be done and walk away. And we were like, wait, how can we help you? What have you done? What has worked and what hasn't worked? And the beauty of that conversation is, you literally saw, 5 women coming together to say, don't give up, right? You're not And I think that was one of the pivotal moments for me when I saw, people saying, "Hey, you're not alone. I've been
Yes.
My company's gone through this too. Here's what worked for me. Here's what didn't work for me. Learn from my mistakes," right? And
Hmm.
she's got several suggestions and recommendations. And I'll never forget her coming back. It was like 2 or 3 months later, she came back to us and she said, "Hey, I took a little bit of this and I took a little bit of that, and here's what I did. Here's what we the exercise that we went through as a leadership team. Here's the things that we put in place. Here's what I learned from my team." um,
Hmm.
with tears, she shared
Yeah.
the root issue, right, was
Yeah.
within the organization. And that's the first time I realized the impact that we could really have with one another by just being vulnerable enough to say, "Here's my issue. Somebody help me."
That
Some-
part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the power of creating a space for people to know that they're not alone and to know that they can get help, that they're not gonna be judged, that they're not gonna be looked down upon, they're not gonna be, cast aside or outcast at all, but that they actually can be vulnerable and can get help. Like that's so powerful. And I know that yeah, I've seen you tell, story after story of women that have been, impacted in that way. I want to go a little bit back because you talked about kind of when you all first started, right? And you were femme before, and now you've created HERverse. Talk to me a little bit about what inspired the shift to HERverse,
Mhm.
and what are some things that you learned along the process of these 8 years?
Oh, that's a great question. So, yeah, we started off as female integrator mastermind, and we often talk about the original five that was in a WhatsApp chat and just the conversations we were having one another. And there was something really interesting that happened along the way, Robert. Is, well, first of all, I went to them and I was like, "Hey, y'all, I think maybe we need to grow the group, right? If we're having this amount of like impact with each other, what if we grew the number of women that are participating? Instead of having five voices, we could have maybe 10 or 15 voices." And
Mhm.
everybody was like, "Well, wait a minute, slow down, friend. This is working. Why are we changing?" Right? True integrator fashion. Why are we trying to
Mhm.
fix something
Right, pump the brakes.
that's broken? And then I also started saying, "Well, hey, wait a minute. What if if we're having this much, this impactful conversation with one another through text? What if we had a speaker that came in and just shared with us, knowledge and experience and tools and resources that we could use?" And so I was really wanting to grow the group in two ways: the number of
Mhm.
women, but also kind of expanding and getting together on a quarterly basis and doing a virtual workshop. And so eventually the women started saying, that's actually a really good idea. And very true to integrator fashion, we assigned me a couple of rocks to grow the group. And I had an amazing opportunity to go to, the second EOS conference. I've been so fortunate to go to all of them at this point. But I went to the second one with the intention of connecting deeply with more women. I met the original five at EOS conference and at Rocket Fuel. We went to the very first Integrator Mastery Forum, and so I
Wow.
met them there. But now it was like, hey, go with the intention of growing. And so before I knew it, what I thought would be 10 or 15 women has turned into 150.
Wow.
And what's really interesting over the last couple of years. I started having these thoughts and feelings of, man, I wish we could touch more women, right? I wish we could reach more women. And everyone started asking the question, well, why can't we? I was like, well, wait a minute, like, could we? And so,
Right.
I went back and I looked at like all of our VTOs, all of our business plans, right? I started looking at them and I started noticing a pattern that the only time we use the word integrator in the business plan was in the name of the organization.
Mm.
It's always women executives, women leaders, and it was
Yes.
referring to, not the title, but the role that we have.
Right.
Started pondering on that. Wait,
Yeah.
like,
Get make it maybe kind of became more holistic.
yeah, well, and subconsciously, did I always know that it was even bigger than my brain at the moment knew, right?
That's it.
And so I really like I started talking to my integrator at the time and really sharing with her, hey, I think we need to expand this, right? In order for us to really truly make the impact that we're looking to make, maybe it needs to be more than just the integrator role. Maybe we need to open it up to all women who are sitting in that same seat, whether they're running on EOS or a different operating system. And she really encouraged me to really dive deep into that and what that could look like. So what we ended up doing is, listen, the integrators were an amazing foundation. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I started with integrators, because I was an integrator at the time too. And I
Mm-hmm.
desperately needed to connect with them. What I've learned over the evolution of them to HERverse is that whether you're running on EOS or a different operating system, we all sit in this same seat.
Mm-hmm.
All have viewpoints and things that we can bring to the table. And so our focus has really been, on women in leadership. And then the
Mm-hmm.
second thing we did is we also identified, while there's a huge gap, that our leadership team members, they are desperate for this same peer connection. And so
Yes.
when we evolved and expanded to HERverse, we opened it up to more women that were sitting in that integrator, chief operating officer, chief of staff, president. Goodness gracious, we use a ton of titles in this role. On and on and on and on.
Exactly.
But we also decided to go down one level and say, hey, listen, the executive leadership team, let's
Mm-hmm.
support them as well. So we now have both communities, and
That's
we
awesome.
keep the integrity of each one of them. So once you're a member of HERverse, you
Mm-hmm.
either get to join the Femme community or the Lead Her community. That way, second in commands are having conversations with themselves, and leaders
Right.
are having conversations with themselves, because what we wanted to make sure is that nobody was looking around the room and filtering what they were saying, or they
Exactly.
were not saying anything at all because they don't want to offend or they don't want to look foolish, right?
Mm-hmm.
We wanted
Mm-hmm.
open conversations, vulnerability, and really truly, like, this is your space to be your authentic self. So ask all the questions and
Yeah.
support in every way that you can.
And the cool part that I love about it is not only have you all put together a community where people can feel comfortable, but you also give people the opportunity to aspire to see what's possible at the next level. And so it's like that was one of the coolest things that I got to see just in interacting with a number of the different groups that you've put together. And I know that, as you all are approaching your 8th year, I've been hearing, pray tell, that there's some things that are coming. I wondered if you wanted to spill a little bit of the tea and let people know what's on the horizon.
Yes, I'm super excited to share. So this is the first time it's going to be shared publicly. So I'm so excited, a little nervous if I'm being honest. One of the things that we've done really well for the last few years is we've had what we call roundtables. And roundtables are virtual groups, small groups of women that get together, usually 4 to 8 women, and they get together for an hour each month, and some of them 90 minutes, depending on which group it is. But they're sharing opportunities, they're sharing challenges, they're really like working through those things together. And then we actually have a mastermind that meets once a month. It is also virtual, and they meet for a full day. They have an agenda that they go through. I actually am part of one of them, and it's incredibly powerful, the conversations we're having with one another. But all of that's been virtual. And
Mm.
we had our membership come to us after Summit last year, and they said, listen, the energy that's in this room, the deep connections that we're making with one another, the relationships that are building for like years and years and years and are becoming friendships. We want to take that and we want to bring
Mhm.
it to our local communities. And we were like, that's amazing, because that's on our long-term plan. Like, that's what we want to do. But where I thought, and our leadership team thought, that was probably still 3 to 5 years out, our membership demand and prospective members, as I'm talking to women who want to join HERverse, it's been the resounding feedback that we've received is that they want this now, not in the future. And then just all of the stars aligned, where we had a couple of women who had been involved in organizations like this, building community and building local chapters, that came to us and said, hey, I'm raising my hand. If you ever have a need, I would love to be part of this with you.
Wow.
Like, this is, whether you universe or God, I personally call it God. Um,
Mhm.
whatever you call it, I was just like, this is such a God moment, right? Like
Yes.
everything is aligning perfectly for it to happen and for it
Yes.
to happen now. So
Hmm.
I'm super, super excited to share that we have 5 women that are launching local chapters in their areas. We have about 8 more women that are going through, they're in the early stages of the process, but they're going through it. And we fully expect that we'll have many more launching very, very soon.
That is so powerful. Wow, I'm truly blessed to be part of the conversation where we launched that out and you let everybody know. And I'm super excited for all the ladies that are going to be able to be part of these amazing roundtables because I've been able to watch kind of how you all work and what you do. And it's not as we talked about it. I'm in awe of kind of you and your energy and what you bring to the room. But the other thing that you've been able to do is you've been able to galvanize others to come together and to do that. And the energy in the rooms that you all facilitate is just phenomenal. So if you're watching this and you haven't decided yet and you don't know whether or not it's for you, I'm just telling you, you want to go and make sure that you get an opportunity to be involved in some way, whether it's at the round tables, whether it's getting to the Fem Summit, whatever you want to do that.
Well, thank
But
you.
Kristie, I want you to take us back a little bit because I want to figure out, and I want you to tell people a little bit about, what was the moment that made you realize that empowering women in leadership was your calling? What was that pivot moment where you were like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing? When did that happen for you?
Yeah, it's fun to hear you ask that question, and it's really kind of fun to think about it too because I never dreamed that this was what I was meant to do. But I had a moment where, several people were asking me, what do you do? I was at a conference and they were like, what do you do? And I shared, that, hey, I'm an integrator of a wealth management firm and this is who we are and what we do. And then this is also my passion project. And this is what FEM at the time, this is what it is and what we do. And several people said to me, oh my goodness, like, the way that you talk about these women, the way you get so excited, you glow, you like light up, like your passion like pours out of you when you talk about this organization. Girl, why are you not doing this full time? I was like, what? Never dreamed of that, right? And so it took me some time. Like I really sat down with that when multiple people started saying it to me. I was like, maybe I need to listen to this, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe I really need to sit back and think about like what is my purpose and what is it that I'm truly here that I'm meant to do. And when I really like laid all of that out, as much as I loved being an integrator, and I loved leading the wealth management firm. It is an incredible group of people, loved what we were doing, loved the people that I got to do with it, that I got to do it with. But there was something special about, like being able to be part of this movement, right?
Yeah.
Movement seems to be like a cliche right now. Everybody's talking about this is a movement, but I really felt like that's what HERverse was. Is
Mm-hmm.
it's truly driving change, right,
Yeah.
and creating space for people to have open, honest, real conversations,
Yeah.
and not just my business is great and everything's wonderful.
Right. All the window dressing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that you called it that. I love to call it the Facebook effect, right?
Exactly. Where everybody shows up as their representative, right? Or their filter, not
Yeah.
as who they are in reality. No, I agree with you 100%. And I think that, to that part of the power of what I've seen in the interactions that I've been able to be a part of and gotten to watch with you, right? Because you light up, you glow when you talk about film. I'm sure people have been able to see that on even this conversation. But something that, in our individual conversations and in some of the things that I've gotten to watch you do, right? There have been a number of myths that you've been able to dispel and straight talk that you've been able to do. And one of the questions that I had is, when you think about the myths or the underrated qualities that are out there, what do you believe are the most underrated qualities of women leaders in the marketplace today?
Oh wow. That's a beautiful question. And there's so many that come to mind, and I'm trying to filter through them really quickly.
Hmm.
Because you didn't give me a list of questions. I don't know all the things
Right. And you
uh,
can think of just maybe two or three or qualities that you see in your HERverse participants and members that And especially when you're helping new members come in that they don't realize are really impactful and powerful qualities, right? Especially because you work with a lot of integrators, you work with a lot of second in commands. What's the thing that they don't see in themselves? Because one of the skills that I think that you have that is amazing is that you can see the awesome in others. And what are, as you think back over all of the years that you've been now working with leaders and calling out the greatness in them, what are
Yeah.
some of the most underrated qualities, things that they don't recognize in themselves that are really awesome?
Yeah, thank you for reframing that for me a little bit and giving me a moment to think through that. I think there's a couple of things that are coming to mind immediately. Well, there's several things, but a couple of things that I want to focus on. One is, I think, a self-awareness. As women leaders, I think we have such an awareness of ourselves, of those around us, and we can just tune into what's happening. I think it can sometimes be a little bit scary, and it can cause self-doubt, and so we tap into it and we learn more, right? And so instead of shutting it down, we really like just get in tune with what's going on, and we're not scared to like dive deep into, hey, what is this feeling and why am I feeling it and what's surfacing from this, or identifying in someone else, like I'm seeing something happening in you. And I think another thing that women are absolutely beautiful at, and I want to say something afterwards too, don't let me forget.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing that women are really, really beautiful at is coming from a place of real curiosity, and
Mm-hmm.
not curiosity to be drilling you or to be like 21 questions, and or not curiosity to be accusatory, right, or
Mm-hmm.
lead you somewhere, but true curiosity of really wanting to know. And that kind of
Yeah.
taps into the self-awareness, right, of
Yeah.
who I am and what I bring to the table, but also digging deep into like what's happening. So I think there's this beautiful thing that happens with curiosity in women, and I think that there's a lot of empathy with women too, right? Our feminine energy really allows us to tap into, knowing and understanding a person, the strengths that they bring to the table, and when they're not performing, or they're maybe not feeling like they're performing, being able to really tap into that and
Mm-hmm.
finding out why, right? What
Yeah.
cause behind this? Because I truly believe most people, not all, but most people who show up to work to do a job, they really want to do it well. They
That
really
part.
want to do it well. But you
Yes.
have to set expectations. They have to know what that means. What does doing really, really well in your job mean? But
Mm-hmm.
hey, listen, there is no perfect person on this planet. And so when somebody's having an off day or something's not right, I think as women, we can kind of tap into that. And we're like, hey, Robert used a tone that I'm not used to having him see. Hey, Robert's productivity has kind of dropped a little bit. What's going on? And our curiosity allows us to
Mm-hmm.
explore that, right? Robert,
Yeah.
what's happening at home? And how are things in life? And, being able to really come from a place of real curiosity, of really truly wanting to know and understand and connect with people.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful energy that we bring to the table. But I
No,
really,
I agree with you 100%. It's so powerful, and again, I think that you're articulating those things as qualities that are oftentimes underrated is so powerful as well, because oftentimes we don't think about curiosity as a superpower, right?
yeah,
But the beauty of it is that curiosity, and this is one of the things that you and I've talked about, because I talked about it in courageous communication, right? Leaning into curiosity does so many things, like you just talked about, that shows the other person that you care. It shows the other person that you see them. It shows the other person that you value them, and that is an overlooked skill in influence and in leadership that so many people don't realize that like you said, a lot of women bring to the table naturally, but don't value the skill the way that they need to. And I love that you have such a great way of helping people to see themselves not just as a collection of their faults, right? But to see, as one of my mentors says, to see their flawsomeness, right? To see their awesomeness in the midst of their flaws, right? And you do such a good job of bringing that out in people and helping them. And I love watching you at work, especially when I get to come to the Fem Summit last year. Like the energy, like you said, I can see why people are clamoring for these roundtables and everything, because the energy that is there I saw so many women who you could see them feeling seen, feeling heard. You could see them for the first time being able to say, yes, this is it. I had a lot of conversations with people in between sessions. And that was one of the things that they said so often that they love about it is like, nowhere else do I feel like people get me like
Yeah.
I do at Summit.
Yeah.
Right. And I just think that's so awesome. And one of the questions I have is, right, many leaders struggle with imposter syndrome, and that's male leaders, female leaders, et cetera. But it strikes a lot of highly successful females. How do you help your members to kind of quiet their inner critic and lead with confidence?
That's such an amazing question. And I'll start with this. I think I'm able to do it because it happened to me too, right?
Mm.
I had and listen, I had somebody who recently said to me that they thought imposter syndrome was a myth. It's not real. And I was almost immediately defensive, right? I was like,
Mhm.
don't invalidate what happened to me, right? Like I
Yes.
went through this. And I'm listen, if somebody doesn't have those doubts and they don't have those negative inner criticisms and comparison and all the things that happen with those of us that do, I'm so incredibly excited for you because
Right.
that would be like that's amazing. But there are a lot of people that go through a lot of challenges, like I mean, I can tell you for me, there was a constant negative inner criticism, a voice that would literally tell me, Kristie, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are to have that conversation? And I did a lot of comparison to, several women that I considered some of the greats, right? Nicole Menike and Melissa Bushman and Katie Sandquist, and listen, the list goes on and on. And I was like, my inner critic would say, you will never be as good as them.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Who do you think you are that you're even anywhere close to what they're doing?
Yeah.
Those all of those thoughts and things can either cripple you and really truly like crumble you, right? And
Mhm.
there were days that I would just sit in my office, something wouldn't have gone exactly the way that I thought it was going to go, and I had a choice. I can either sit at my desk and tears and crumble, or I can take a place of strength and say, hey, that is just a moment in time, that is something that happened. I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to grow from this. And for me, I went through a long process. It took me about a year and a half or so, but I developed tools for myself to say, hey,
Mhm.
wait a minute, first of all, the negative inner criticism is just a voice and it's a liar,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yes.
It's like the enemy is attacking me right now, and there's this voice that is telling me things that I know are not true. I know
Mhm.
I'm a powerful leader. I know I've done really, really great things for organizations. I know what I'm capable of. But that voice, whoo, that voice,
It can be strong
oh,
sometimes.
it is hard, right? So I created these tools for myself though, and one of the biggest ones was affirmations. Is really truly like I get to choose. The incredible Jill Young one time said to me, I reached out to her and I said, hey Jill, what do you think my strengths are as I'm trying to develop my affirmations for myself? And she said, I think the question, Kristie, is not what are your strengths, but what do you choose for your strengths to be?
Mm.
I get to choose? Like this is my choice. I get to choose this. And
Yeah.
so I really sat with that for a long time. And the kind of the evolution of what has happened with that is I have three affirmations that I say to myself every single day, still to this day, and I will continue doing it for the rest of my life. I am bold, I am enough, and I am worthy. And those mean
Mm.
very, very special and deep to me. It's not maybe the standard thing that you think of, right? But when I say I am bold, that means that I am bold enough to have the conversations that nobody else is willing to have. I'm bold enough to bring up topics that need to be brought up at the leadership team. But it also means that I am bold enough to stand up for myself. And it also means that I am bold enough to stand up for those that cannot stand up for themselves,
I
right?
love
So there's deeper meanings into all of the affirmations that I have. And what I realize is the combination of all three of those is what makes me who I am. And each day that brings a strength to place. So for each morning, to answer your question directly, Robert, is each morning I wake up and I write my three affirmations down and I say, what does that make me today? And I'm looking
it.
down at
Mm.
as I think about this. And this morning I wrote down, I am bold, I am enough, I am worthy. And today that makes me resilient and strong.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I love it. I love how not only did you, right? Because so many of us, and I have my imposter syndrome journey, right? The inner critics that go through your head, the other shoe that's gonna always drop, right? All the things, because you're with you all day. And so you know when you mess up, even if nobody else does, right? All the things. But I love the fact that you operationalized it, right? You not only have the positive that you're feeding into yourself, but then you add it to it. And how is that impacting? How am I applying that? Right.
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich, he said, knowledge is not power, right? It's not enough to just know something.
Yes.
Applied knowledge is power. And I love how you're applying the knowledge that you are these things to your day. And that's so powerful. I hadn't thought about it in that way. Like, how am I going to take what I know about me, what I know to be true? How is that going to impact my day to day? That's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Oh, I love that you said that. That's such a great way to think of that. And listen, there's several other things that I could do that I could share. In fact, I'll drop a tool in the comments for people, because there's one tool that I use that, sometimes some of those days when that inner critic is really, really loud, it's hard. It is
Yeah.
hard to not hear those words, right? But here's what I learned, and it's the massive lesson that I learned is I don't want my inner critic to go away. I don't.
Hmm.
Why?
Hmm.
I want her to whisper, not scream at me,
Yes.
right? I need to control her volume so that she's not loud enough that she is disabling me from doing what I need to do, right?
Right.
She's not creating so much doubt in me that I cannot do something.
Right.
But I don't want her to completely go away because she motivates me, right?
Right.
She has a persona. Her name is Betty. Um, and so for me, what I need Betty to whisper,
Hmm.
because when she tells me I can't do something, I'm going to show her I can,
I
right?
love it. I love it. I love that you still see the value of Betty. So it's not this thing, because a lot of people go out there and they're like, you have to silence your inner critic, or you got to shut your inner critic up. And a lot of that leads to a disintegration of self, right?
Yes.
But what you're articulating, what I think is so powerful, is it's loving all of you, but recognizing what the role that Betty has is. Betty is a motivator. Betty is a
Mhm.
is even possibly someone who's pointing out something that you may not have been paying attention to before, that she's a focuser, right? But she doesn't need to be excommunicated. She doesn't need to be, demonized or made diabolical. She just needs to play her role.
You can play her role.
I
Yes.
love that. That is so powerful.
Because what I have found in my coaching that I'm doing with a lot of women, and men, by the way, I coach men and women, but a lot of the
Including me sometimes, y'all. So y'all pay attention. Yeah. All right.
I love our conversations. One of the things that I have found is that when that inner criticism starts to pop back up, if you are
Mhm.
trying to completely shut it off and cut it out, is now it becomes a failure because I wasn't able to. It's not a failure. If
Mhm.
you know how to use it for yourself.
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
I use my inner criticism, for motivation. And when she does start telling me certain things, I'm like, oh yeah, my friend, watch this, right?
Yes.
I'm going to prove
Yes.
you wrong. So that's one reason why I don't want her to completely just like go away, because if she does pop back up, I don't want that to feel like a failure that she
Hmm.
now resurfaced. So how do
Yeah.
I use her to my benefit?
That makes perfect sense. No, I love that. I love that. So, as you know, I could talk to you all day and all night, and I would love to, but I want to make sure that the listeners get a couple more things, and I want to get you back to your day. So, we've got two more questions that I want to kind of close with. One of them's deep thought, and one of them's a belief thought. So, I'm going to
Mm,
give you both questions so you can think through them, and then we're going to get to it. So, the first question is, as you look at, you know, everything that you're doing, what's the legacy that you hope to leave, not just through HERverse, but
mm.
through your life's work in general? Like, what are you trying to have be the legacy of Kristie, right? And then the last question is, what's a belief that you hold that you hope every woman in leadership eventually comes to embrace? So you can
Mm.
answer them in whatever order you want to.
I love that question. And they may be answered together here. Um, the legacy that I really hope that we get to leave behind is that we are in control of our lives, and that what we put our mind to and what we want to do with our life, we get to determine what that is, not everyone else around us, not society that says this is what being a woman is and this is how you are successful, right? We get to define what that looks like for ourselves.
Yes.
And then we get to choose to be our most, right? You have a choice. I think as young girls, and boys have this as well, but as young girls, one of the things that I've really noticed is there are these images of perfection all the time, right? As little tiny girls, we're shown princesses who are perfect little beings, and you're the princess, right? You hear quite frequently, your mommy and daddy's princess. As we get older, I know for me personally, like having really great grades were like, that was an accomplishment that I was expected to do. I remember, in my world, not that I was ever punished for not having, a B, but I definitely felt like I was not living up to my parents' expectations, right? And so there was this level of perfection. You have to have straight A's, and if you don't have straight A's, then you're not doing as well as you could. But then
Yeah.
going, like, you pick up magazines these days, and women have perfect bodies that we don't even think about. They're airbrushed, right? But
Exactly.
home and garden magazines, where you pick it up and there's all these images of these beautiful, perfect homes. And there's statistics that say we have to have 2.1 for children. By the way, if anybody can ever explain to me what 0.1 for children is, but there's like all of these things of, this is who you are expected to be as a woman. You're expected to be a wife. You're expected to be a mother. You're expected to be, successful in your career, and there all of these things that are laid out for us. But what I hope that we're able to really help women understand is, you are in control of your destiny and your life, and
Yes.
whatever you choose to be, that is for you to decide. And it is okay for you to decide what you want. You get to define what life looks like for you. Um,
Yes.
and I'm hearing it so much, and I'm talking about it frequently. But women who are in management, they're like, oh, in order for me to succeed, I have to get to the executive leadership level, or if I'm on the executive leadership team, then I have to reach this level. And as chief operating officer, integrators, you're not successful until you get to the CEO level. Says who?
Yes. Says who?
If you are an amazing integrator, and I want to say this, if you are an amazing integrator and that's your gift and that's your talent and that's what you bring to the world, then own that. Love that about yourself. You get to define what that looks like. And if moving to a different position, because I don't consider it an elevation or a promotion to get to the CEO or the owner visionary level. It's moving over to it. It's a transition over. If that's your desire and that's your gifts and that's your talents, go for it. Be that person. But please do not allow someone else to put those expectations on you. There are so many incredibly talented integrators that I see right now who don't feel like they're enough. They're not at the pinnacle of success because they're not something else.
Yes.
You get to define that. What is
Yes.
success for you? And then live up to that success for yourself.
That
Be
is so powerful.
your most. Be your most,
Oh,
no matter what that is.
oh, I love that. I love that. I think that's a perfect place for us to end our conversation today. That affirmation, be your most. Kristie, I just thank you for constantly being your most, and your most shining that light. And as Marianne Williams has said, unconsciously giving other people permission to shine theirs by you standing in the gap and facing up to your fears, standing up to Betty and not letting her dictate what's going to happen in the day. Your presence is liberating others. And so I just want to continue to say thank you for all that you do. Thank you for allowing me to be able to interview you in this space. I hope that you all out there who are listening got a ton of the nuggets that got dropped, because she was dropping a bunch of them. And so if you need to rewind it, go back, listen to it over again, do whatever you need to do. But also make sure that you're reaching out to HERverse and the team and getting to a roundtable, getting to the Fem Summit, getting to whatever you can do so that you can be connected, so that you can be a part of all of that energy that Kristie, you are putting into the world, and it's reverberating and moving. So thank you so much for having me here. It has been a pleasure, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you turning the mic on me and giving me an opportunity to talk. And yeah, it's been absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of ConvHERsation with Kristie. I hope you're walking away with a few nuggets of inspiration, maybe a new perspective, or just a reminder that you're not alone in your leadership journey. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, drop us a comment, or tag us with your favorite takeaway. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep leading with heart, and keep building the kind of life and leadership that feels true to you. I'll see you in the next ConvHERsation.